Howdy, folks. Pull up a chair and settle in, because tonight, I've got a story that's sure to send a chill down your spine. We're not talking about some far-off legend or a monster from the movies. This is a tale that comes straight from the heart of Illinois, right in our own backyard. Let me introduce you to the Enfield Horror, a creature so strange, so downright unsettling that it's become one of the most talked-about mysteries in the Midwest. Picture this. A quiet night in a small town, the kind where you can hear the crickets chirping and the wind rustling through the trees. Suddenly, something moves in the shadows and nothing is ever the same again. This isn't Bigfoot or Nessie. It's a homegrown mystery that had a whole town locking their doors at night. Folks who'd never thought twice about leaving their windows open started double-checking every lock. The Enfield Horror wasn't just a story. It was a real fear that crept into people's homes and hearts. We're talking about a creature so bizarre it left everyone scratching their heads. Witnesses described it as having 3 legs, short arms, and glowing red eyes, something that didn't fit any animal anyone had ever seen. Some said it hopped like a kangaroo. Others swore it moved with an unnatural speed. Brave townsfolk, news reporters, and a whole lot of confusion. This story's got it all. The local papers ran wild with headlines, and soon, the Enfield Horror was the talk of not just Enfield, but the entire state. Reporters flocked to the scene, hoping to catch a glimpse or at least a good story. It's the kind of tale you'd share around a campfire where every snap in the dark makes you jump. Kids dared each other to walk past the woods at night, and adults swapped stories about what they'd seen or heard. The legend grew with every retelling, blurring the line between fact and fiction. So grab a seat, because we're heading back to a small town that got a big surprise. Enfield may look quiet and peaceful, but beneath that calm surface, there's a story that refuses to be forgotten. A story that still makes people wonder what's really out there in the dark. I'm just the storyteller here. This legend belongs to Enfield, Illinois. It's a piece of local history, passed down from neighbor to neighbor, generation to generation. Whether you believe in monsters or not, there's no denying the impact this tale had on the community. It's about how regular folks react when the unexplainable shows up on their doorstep. Some tried to hunt it, others hid in fear, but everyone had a story to tell. The Enfield Horror brought people together, even as it scared them apart. When things get weird, people get interesting. The Enfield Horror turned neighbors into detectives, skeptics into believers, and made everyone question what they thought they knew about their own town. So, let's unravel the mystery of Illinois' strangest resident together. Who knows? Maybe you'll be the next to spot something strange in the shadows.
Things you only talk about at the back of the cave.
Before we get to the creature, you need to know where this all happened. The setting is half the story. Without it, you're just hearing about a weird animal. A monster in a tiny, quiet town. That's when things get personal. The gossip starts and suddenly, the whole town is on edge. Enfield, Illinois, is the stage for this wild tale. Back in 1973, it was pure small-town America. Peaceful, slow, and predictable. The biggest news was the high school football game or the county fair. That's what makes this story so good. The unbelievable crashing into the ordinary. Imagine a hornet loose in church. Suddenly, nobody's calm. Let's appreciate the calm before the storm. Once the horror arrives, Enfield will never be the same. Enfield, Illinois, White County, population around 700 in 1973. The kind of place where everyone knows your name and what you had for supper. Quiet streets, big porches, hard-working folks, farmers, miners, small business owners. Life was simple, safe, and uneventful. People left their doors unlocked and kids played outside until dark. The world's problems felt far away. That's why what happened next was so shocking. Enfield was the perfect backdrop. So normal, the weirdness hit even harder. The town itself became a character, an unsuspecting victim of a paranormal prank. Into this peaceful corner, the Enfield Horror made its entrance, and nothing would be the same. It all started on April 25, 1973, a seemingly ordinary evening in the quiet town of Enfield, Illinois. Henry McDaniel, a family man, was home with his wife and kids. They were settling in for the night, the usual routine of a modest, rural household. A normal night, until he heard scratching at the door. It was faint at first, almost like the wind brushing against the wood. Expecting a dog, he opened up and saw a nightmare. What stood before him was beyond comprehension. 4.5 feet tall, gray, 3 legs, tiny T-Rex arms, and 2 glowing pink eyes. It was like something out of a horror movie, but this was real. Henry slammed the door, grabbed his .22, and braced himself. His heart pounded as he tried to make sense of what he had just seen. He opened the door again. The thing was still there. It hadn't moved, as if it was waiting for him. He fired. The creature screamed like a wildcat and bounded away, 75 feet in 3 leaps. It was an impossible sight, defying all logic. Shaken, Henry called the authorities. His voice trembled as he described the encounter, unsure if they would believe him. Deputies found scratch marks and strange 3-footed tracks outside. The evidence was undeniable. The tracks matched Henry's story. 3 feet, huge leaps. It was as if the creature had left a calling card. Suddenly, it wasn't just a wild tale. There was evidence. The deputies were baffled, and the small town buzzed with curiosity and fear. The Enfield Horror had arrived, and Henry was its first witness. His life would never be the same. But he wouldn't be the last. The creature's presence would soon be felt by others in the community. The town was about to get a lot more interesting. Whispers of the Enfield Horror spread like wildfire, capturing the imagination of everyone. And the legend was just beginning. Enfield would never be the same again, as the tale of the Enfield Horror became a part of its history. After Henry's encounter, the story spread fast. Whispers turned to town-wide chatter. Everyone had heard about the creature. Some were scared, some curious, some skeptical. But then, others started seeing things too. A search party led by Rick Rainbow heard a chilling, high-pitched cry near the tracks. Days later, kids claimed to see the same gray-stooped creature. The story gained steam, no longer just Henry's tale. Reporters swarmed Enfield, and the legend hit national news. Monster hunters and tourists flooded the town, hoping for a glimpse. The Enfield Horror was now a full-blown event. So, what did the Enfield Horror actually look like? That's the question that haunted everyone in Enfield, Illinois after the first sightings. The descriptions that came out of those dark woods were so bizarre, so outlandish, that it's no wonder the story spread like wildfire. People wanted answers, but all they got were fragments, pieces of a puzzle that didn't quite fit together. Henry McDaniel, the first person to come face-to-face with the creature, described it as standing about 4 to 5 feet tall. Its body was covered in a strange, grayish fur, and it moved with a hunched, almost unnatural posture, as if it was struggling to stand upright. The way it carried itself was unsettling, like it didn't quite belong in this world. But the weirdest part? It didn't have the usual 4 legs you'd expect from a wild animal. Instead, it had 3 short, thick legs, each ending in a set of sharp, clawed toes. The tracks it left behind in the mud were unlike anything anyone had ever seen. 3-toed prints that looked almost like they belonged to some prehistoric beast. Its arms were tiny, almost comically small, and it kept them pressed tightly against its chest, like a shrunken T-Rex. They looked too weak to be of any use, dangling awkwardly as the creature moved. Witnesses said it seemed to guard its chest as if protecting something, or maybe just hiding its own vulnerability. And then there were the eyes, huge, round, and glowing a bright, unnatural pink in the darkness. People said the eyes seemed to burn right through the night, reflecting any bit of light and making the creature impossible to ignore. Those eyes alone were enough to send shivers down your spine. Its head was large and oddly shaped, almost as if it was too big for its body. There was barely any neck to speak of, just a lumpy mass that sat directly on its shoulders. The silhouette was so strange that people struggled to describe it. Some said it looked like a misshapen pumpkin, others like a swollen balloon. But what really set the Enfield Horror apart was the way it moved. It didn't just walk or run, it bounded. Witnesses claimed it could leap 50 to 75 feet in a single bound, covering huge distances in the blink of an eye. The movement was so fast and so powerful, it almost seemed supernatural. Most people only ever saw a blur, a flash of gray fur and those unmistakable pink eyes darting through the trees. It was always gone before anyone could get a good, clear look. The creature seemed to melt into the shadows, leaving only questions behind. It didn't move like any animal folks around Enfield had ever seen. It wasn't a dog, a bear, or even a big cat. Its gait was all wrong. awkward, lurching, and yet somehow incredibly fast. People tried to compare it to known animals, but nothing quite matched. All anyone ever got were quick, terrifying glimpses, just enough to know they'd seen something, but never enough to be sure what it was. The fear of the unknown made every sighting more intense, more unforgettable. The Enfield Horror was like a patchwork of animal parts that didn't belong together, a living, breathing mystery stitched together from nightmares and wild imagination. In the end, it left only confusion and fear behind, haunting the memories of everyone who caught even the briefest glimpse of its impossible form. Why does the Enfield Horror still haunt our imaginations? It's a great story. Small town, terrifying monster, unsolved mystery. People love a local legend, especially one that makes the world feel a little stranger. It wasn't just Henry's story. Others saw and heard things too. When a whole community shares a mystery, it becomes folklore. The media attention made it official. Enfield's monster was now national news. The legend stuck because people want to believe in the unexplained. In a world mostly explained by science, we crave a little mystery. The Enfield Horror keeps that spark of wonder alive. It's a reminder that not every corner of the map is mapped. Maybe, just maybe, there are still monsters out there, and that's why the story lives on. Every good story has skeptics, and this one's no different. Some folks thought the whole thing was nonsense and looked for logical answers. One theory, a lost kangaroo escaped from Ohio, may be mistaken for a monster in the dark. Others suggested an escaped ape or a big monkey. Some blamed mass hysteria, people primed to see monsters after Henry's story spread. And of course, some thought it was all a hoax. But most who knew Henry said he was honest and genuinely scared. The tracks and scratch marks still debated. The mystery remains. Believers and skeptics still argue to this day. So, what did we learn? In 1973, Enfield, Illinois, had a brush with the bizarre. Whether it was a monster, a kangaroo, or just wild imaginations, something strange happened. The story put Enfield on the map and became part of its identity. The sightings stopped, but the legend never left. It's a tale about fear, community, and our fascination with the unknown. Are you a believer or a skeptic? That's up to you. Next time you're in a quiet town, remember Enfield. There might be a wild story waiting. The Enfield Horror lives on. Keep your eyes peeled.